Please remember that the Lucy Pod is not a replacement for professional medical advice. If you have questions or concerns about your own amazing brain, please speak to a medical professional. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I speak to you all today, the peoples of the Kulin Nation. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Lucy Pod. I hope that you are all well and are staying safe. I feel as though since I've been gone and busy, AI has become more of a thing. I feel like it's everywhere now and it's impossible to not see and to not talk about. And obviously, this is not a tech or philosophical podcast, and it doesn't usually deal with these matters, but I have come to realize, I think that ADHD and AI are very much linked, and it's almost impossible to talk about AI without talking about ADHD and neurodiversity. And so today's episode, we are going to explore the impact of AI, which is artificial intelligence, on ADHD and neurodiversity and how it all ties in. I also just really want to talk about AI because I find it really fascinating, and I always want to talk about ADHD because it's the point of this podcast. So I'm very excited to be able to talk about these two things together, and I'm also really keen to hear your thoughts. Before we get into the episode and have a chat, I do acknowledge that there are many people who have a lot of concerns around AI and certain AI programs. They have a lot of ethical, philosophical, and environmental concerns about it. There is new and emerging evidence that supports the concerns that certain AI programs have a negative impact on the environment. And there are also a lot of creatives, a lot of writers who have expressed concerns about how AI is impacting their work. As we all know, technology is constantly evolving, and we usually don't know the full impact or extent of, a technological advance or program. And we don't usually do the post-mortem until years and years later. We are still in the sort of, I don't want to say the conception of it, but it's still early days, and we're still investigating and learning about the impacts that social media has on young people and their brains and their mental health. And the same goes for AI. However, it's important to acknowledge that AI does have a risk. It comes with many risks, actually, and has already caused quite a few problems environmentally, politically, socially. But we also have to acknowledge that there's a lot of good that comes with AI, and it's a very nuanced conversation. But I completely understand why people have qualms about AI, especially when you learn about the environmental impact and when you hear from authors and artists about how hard it makes their life. I also thought it would be fun to play a little game. I want you to comment the timestamp of where you think what I am saying has been created or given to me by AI. So basically, I want you to tell me where in this podcast episode you think I was using a script generated by AI, whether that be Copilot, ChatGPT, Meta AI, whatever AI program. I want you to tell me at which timestamp it starts and at which timestamp it ends. Some of you might be thinking, what the hell is AI? What are you talking about? What do you mean AI? Well, when I say AI, I'm referring to artificial intelligence. And this might be something that you haven't heard of, or might be something that you know about and that is in your everyday life. The very basic definition of AI is technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human learning, comprehension, problem solving, decision making, creativity, and autonomy. Applications and devices equipped with AI can see and identify objects. They can also understand and respond to human language. They can also learn from new information and experience and can make detailed recommendations to users and experts. They can also act independently, replacing the need for human intelligence or intervention. Replacing, I don't know about that, but it definitely supplements, I'll say, or adds to the need for human intelligence. I don't like the idea of replacing human intelligence, but we will get into that. Some examples of AI, or the most classic example, is the self-driving car or Siri on the iPhone. But nowadays we hear more about generative AI, or Gen AI for short. So Gen AI can create original text, images, video, and other content. For example, the AI program ChatGPT can generate an original story or image if you ask it to. So you could say, hey, ChatGPT, write me a short story, and it'll generate and spit you out a story. I'm obviously not an expert in IT and in AI, so my explanation of the technology, or my following explanation of the technology, is going to be based on what the experts say, but I am going to say it in a way that is in layman's terms, because not everyone listening is going to be an expert. So I'm going to explain it in a way that we can all understand, and so that we're all on the same page. It may not be as intricate as some, tech geeks and nerds and experts would like it, but I want to explain the basic functioning of AI technology in a way that makes sense, because it's incredibly complicated, and even I think like an expert explaining it could not explain like the magnitude and the work that it goes into, like the work that goes into like creating AI. It's probably endless code, endless data that could probably only really be estimated if we had a look at it. And even then, looking at it, I wouldn't know what I'm looking at. So the way that it works is basically, so you have to think of AI as teaching a computer to think or to make decisions. Basically like how a person might learn from experience, but instead of using a brain, the computer uses data and math to do this. So one way is machine learning, or ML for short, and it is a type of AI that teaches computers using examples instead of step-by-step instructions. So imagine you're teaching a child to recognize animals. You show them 100 pictures of cats and say, this is a cat. After enough examples, the child can sort of start guessing and inferring which new animals are cats. And that is exactly how machine learning works. You give the computer lots of examples, which is called data, and it learns patterns so it can make good guesses in the future. And the human brain already does this, but obviously AI and a computer can do it a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently. Then there are the neural networks. So one special kind of machine learning uses neural networks, which are kind of inspired by the human brain. So picture a big web of dots connected by lines, and each dot does a tiny bit of thinking, like asking, does this look like a cat? All the dots together help the computer figure out answers from complex data like images, sounds, or text. Now, if you take that neural network and add many more layers of dots called deep layers, this makes deep learning. And deep learning is really powerful because it can learn without needing everything explained. It can figure out what's important in a pile of messy data, and it's great at things like understanding human language or recognizing faces. So hopefully that made sense or gave you an idea of what AI means and how it is trained and how it is created. And like I said, I'm sure there's some experts and nerds who are thinking, no, it's so much more in that. Let me explain. But this is the sort of basic information that one should know about how the technology works in a way that makes sense and doesn't make us feel confused and out of the loop. I did say earlier that AI has a negative impact on the environment and that there is research to support this. And in my explanation just now about how AI works, it doesn't touch on the part of the technology that makes it so environmentally problematic. And so I do want to touch on it and explain it. So you'll hear a lot of people say AI is so bad for the environment, like it uses so much water. And for the average person, that doesn't really mean anything. That's actually quite confusing. I, to be honest, didn't really understand what people meant when they were saying that. I'm like, I don't understand what you mean by it uses so much water. Like, what do you mean by that? So basically what people mean by that and what they mean when they're talking about this environmental impact is, in order for AI or generative AI to work well, it needs to be trained on massive amounts of information, like books, websites, conversations, photos, all of that, like massive amounts. And to learn all of that, it uses mega, super powerful computers that run all the time for, days, months, weeks. And these computers are basically data centers, and they use a lot of electricity, not just to run the machines, but to also keep them cool so they don't overheat, because computers can overheat. So the more and more people use AI, the more energy is needed to power it. And if the electricity to power it comes from fossil fuels like gas, coal, or oil, then that can create carbon emissions, and that's the stuff that can cause climate change and damage our environment. So the more AI that we use, the more greenhouse gases may end up in the air, unless that energy were to start coming from clean sources like solar or wind. And in order to keep those computers cool, we need a lot of water. And that's a lot of water to be wasting on prompts that are not maybe that important. So that's not very positive, and it is really something to take into account. But hopefully the experts and the incredibly learned people can find a solution to this. If we can create something as amazing as AI with all of its flaws, I am sure that we can find solutions for it, maybe not necessarily making AI 100% green, because I don't know if that's ever going to be possible, but definitely to make it so that it's not having such a negative impact on the environment, which, we obviously need to preserve, because if there is no planet, there is no us, and I don't want to be doom and gloom, but I really do hope that we can find some alternative and more sort of eco ways to power AI and these data centers, and maybe teach people to use them in a way that is more considerate and more beneficial to the environment, or not as harmful of the environment. We have so much carbon footprint and so much of an impact on the environment, and adding this other layer, we really need to develop and create some alternatives. So hopefully that happens, or is already happening and in the works. I'm sure it is. So obviously AI is not a new thing. Might not be obvious to some, but it is not a new thing. We've been using AI for longer than we realized. For me, the one form of AI that I can remember really vividly, back in the day, because I'm so old, is Siri. Siri is, for me, one of the first forms in my experience of artificial intelligence. And I'm realizing that by saying Siri, my Siri is opening up on my phone. So funny, it recognizes my voice. She's been trained to recognize her name and her voice. So yeah, I remember Siri being the first form of AI for me. And I think she first came out on the iPhone 5S, which I think stood for iPhone 5 Siri. And so I remember getting this iPhone and having Siri. I mean, all of the phones have her now, but basically I would ask her things by saying, "Hey Siri," and that just prompted my phone, and I would ask her questions. I have her look things up, to give me definitions, to tell me jokes, to rap, to beatbox, to call this person, to do that. And I'm sure that there's some Gen Xers listening to this thinking about their time even further back about examples of AI that they have used. But at the time, I don't think any of us realized that it was AI. We just thought it was really cool. And we thought that the real AI that we saw on Star Wars, Star Trek, Black Mirror was going to come, years and years later, once we're old and dying. But no, it was already present and it came sooner than we think, I'm sure ChatGPT was in the works long before Black Mirror was. But I think the most modern example that we have seen of AI and that is, really quite popular is ChatGPT. There are other programs like Copilot and Meta AI, and I think this one called Chatbot, and probably a lot that I'm missing. But the one that everyone seems to know is ChatGPT. So ChatGPT was originally released in November 2022 by the developer OpenAI. They use Python as their programming language or their coding. And ChatGPT is basically constantly evolving. It evolves every day because, it's trained to do so. I actually remember when it first came out and I thought it was pretty cool and pretty clever and amazing, but it's since become even more intelligent. And when I say it's become more intelligent, it's been trained to become more intelligent because it's being used by millions of people every day. And so it's learning from us. And I'm sure, the developers and the experts are also making it smarter. And it's pretty phenomenal what ChatGPT can do. Some examples, some very minor ones, from, asking it a basic question like, tell me about the first Prime Minister of Australia and what their goals were. If you try to ask Siri that, she will flounder. ChatGPT immediately spits out a prompt and information, and it takes you to where it got it from. So sometimes the information that it can provide can be incorrect, but if you ask ChatGPT, hey, based on information found in this journal, tell me about the first Prime Minister, it will do it for you. It'll spit it out for you, find you the source. Or if you want to write an essay for uni about AI, and you say, hey, ChatGPT, can you give me 10 articles that address the themes of this essay that I'm writing? The essay that I'm writing is about the impacts of ChatGPT on the human brain. Can you find me any academic sources and books and all of that can help me write this essay? And it'll do that for you. And while people are thinking that's not very amazing, it actually is. It's quite special and quite remarkable. And there's many more examples of what it can do. It can create a logo. You can say, hey, I own a small cupcake making business. Can you create a logo for me? I don't like that logo you made. Can you make it more colorful? Can you make it more modern? Can you write me a slogan for my business? Can you write me a menu for my business? These are all the products that I have. Generate a menu. It can do so much and more and more and more. And this is just the beginning. It's going to be able to diagnose illnesses, I'm telling you, in a few months probably. So now I want to talk about disability and AI and all of that. So I'm not here to say that in order for you to organize your life or feel like you have control of your ADHD that you need to use AI. And I don't think you can AI or hack your way out of ADHD. But I do think technology, especially assistive technology, which uses AI, benefits disabled people and neurodivergent people. So while you have people who poo-poo AI, and I understand why they do, especially because of the environmental impact, I don't know if all of them realize that AI isn't just being used by weird LinkedIn bots trying to get you to give your credit card details for a job that they're, not going to offer you, or, for weird, AI-generated websites to scam you. It's actually used by a lot of people, especially when it comes to assistive speech technology. So assistive speech technology is often referred to as augmentative augmentative and alternative communication. And basically it refers to a bunch of devices and techniques that help people with speech or language impairments or disabilities to be able to communicate with other people and with their surroundings. So an example of an AAC device that I think is incredibly cool and futuristic, even though it exists now, is the eye gaze technology, the eye gaze technology device, which is basically a device that uses eye gaze technology and allows people to interact with their devices and their environments using only their eye movements, because they might not be able to use their hands or their feet or have full mobility. So basically they use their eyes. And how it works is that there's these specialized cameras that are in the computer or the tablet or device that they're using, and it monitors their eye movements and it calibrates to their eye movements, and it establishes a baseline for tracking, and then the interface will allow them to select letters, icons, commands, prompts to interact with the device and to be able to communicate with people and their surroundings. It's absolutely phenomenal. I have seen people with ALS, cerebral palsy, and muscular dystrophy. And nowadays, the use of AI and artificial neural networks has become a really popular and practical way to complete these eye tracking tasks and analysis. So with AI, these eye tracking tasks and, studies can yield a lot of information that might not have been detected by human observers. So the practice of deep learning also allows for a given neural network to improve at a given task when given enough sample data. And obviously this does require a large supply of training data, which has that environmental impact. However, we're not going to say to these people and these developers that they have to stop using it because we don't like AI. And this is why the conversation is incredibly nuanced. ADHD is very different from having a physical disability like ALS or cerebral palsy. However, there are some people who are ADHD who deal with comorbid conditions such as autism, who are non-speaking, and they use this assistive technology. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about what AI can do for the ADHD brain, or I should say the ADHD person. AI can be a really great, I don't want to call it an assistant because then it implies that it's a person, but it can be a really great assistant or sort of, tool for people, for ADHDers to use. It can help you, stay a little more organized, possibly remember important tasks, and some even say it improves your focus, which we will get into later. I mean, imagine having a little virtual assistant and they send you reminders for appointments that you usually miss, or it helps you create a to-do list or a routine. It can already do that. It can already do those things, and it can also suggest ways to manage your time better, how to break big tasks into smaller ones. And there's even apps and tools that are designed specifically to support ADHD, which use AI, and they, offer personalized strategies and tips to make one's life smoother. And they use, and obviously they use AI. All resources and sources will be linked below. So going into this source, there was actually a study done in April this year titled Artificial Intelligence in ADHD, a global perspective on research hotspots, trends, and clinical applications. And it found some very interesting stuff. And as I said, this will all be linked in the show notes below. So make sure that you have a read. So basically, they noted that AI had garnered quite a bit of attention in research on ADHD. And in the future, AI might have clinical applications in ADHD, particularly in facilitating the objective diagnosis and classification of ADHD, which is just mind-blowing. And their study was aimed to comprehensively analyze the current status and research frontiers of AI applications in ADHD. and identifying hotspots and trends to sort of guide future research directions and promote clinical advancements in this field. And the reason I'm going to talk about this study is, in this study, they're not talking about how AI can be used for ADHD people. It's actually how can we make ADHD research more comprehensive and make it better. And I don't know about you, but I think we got to make it better. And if there's a technology that can do that, that is amazing. And if we can develop it in a way that is useful and that, has more positive impacts than negative, then I am fascinated and kind of all for it. So they found that AI technologies have become a really prominent topic in ADHD research, with the US, China, and England leading in articles and influence. The State University of New York system was the most influential institution, while Frontiers in Psychiatry also stood out as the key journal. Utilizing networks and other AI technologies for diagnosing ADHD, for them, they found that it represents current hotspots and future trends, and it potentially offers, those objective indicators for ADHD. There was also another study done in November last year about investigating the impact of an AI-based play activities intervention on the quality of life of school-age children with ADHD. So this is more talking about how it affects, directly like the person, the ADHDer. And their findings, the key findings were that AI-based play improved the quality of life in children with ADHD. Significant quality of life gains were sustained 7 weeks after the intervention. Play sessions led to improvement across all pediatric quality of life dimensions. And I really encourage you to read these articles and even more, because it is absolutely fascinating. For me, on a personal note, I have found AI to be really useful for my ADHD in organizing my thoughts. I don't really use ChatGPT to generate my thoughts or to give me ideas. I have it there to help me organize my ideas. So, for example, people, and obviously some argue there's the right way to use AI and the wrong way, and I do agree with this, but because there's no rules, people can kind of use it how they want. But when I say the wrong way, I'm going to give an example. So a lot of people will use AI in the wrong way, and in a way that is like not very smart. So people will be given an essay, and instead of, having their own ideas using what they've already got that's been given to them by, their teacher, they will ask AI to generate the essay and to generate the information, which is a real misuse because it's basically plagiarism. It's not your original thoughts. Whereas the way I would use AI is I would do all my research without AI. I'd use all the information that I have at my disposal, put it into what I call my sort of blurt page, like all my ideas, what I want to talk about, my findings, and then I would ask ChatGPT to organize those ideas. So in a way, like, let's say, for example, I am asked to write a script. Let's even make it that. I have to write a script for a podcast episode about AI and ADHD. I would do my research, put all that research and all my thoughts on it together, and then I would say something like to ChatGPT, without changing what I have written and provided, can you write me a script using this information? I want the following structure. I want an intro. I want this part here. I want that part there. And ChatGPT will merely take that and organize my ideas. Whereas a silly way to do it would to be, hey, ChatGPT, can you just make me a script about AI and ADHD? And then it's completely not my own thoughts. Because for me personally, my issue sometimes with creating things, and obviously I haven't used AI to write this script, but I thought it was a pointed example, is I find it hard to organize my thoughts. I have the thoughts, they're there, I've got the research, I have an understanding. It's just hard for me to put them into a way that makes sense. So I get ChatGPT to help me with that and to demuddle it. And for me, that's been really helpful and beneficial. Some people might think, no, like you can learn to organize your thoughts. And of course that's true. But if there is something like ChatGPT at my disposal that can do that for me, I am going to use it. But then there's the niggling question. Could AI make ADHD worse. Let's talk about the downsides. So obviously we've talked about the environmental side of things, but let's talk more about the neurological and sort of cultural and social downsides. As someone who considers themselves a passionate writer, I really do not love the way in which AI has been stealing or steals from authors and their work to generate content and to help others generate content. I really think that completely bastardizes and derails the point of having books and having authors and makes it all feel pretty futile. And I've had people argue back and say, well, all forms of art are stolen and inspired by someone. And that is true. Take Amy Winehouse, for example. For me, her music, her voice, her style is unique and original. There's no other person like Amy Winehouse. But Amy Winehouse herself has acknowledged and said that a lot of her style, her music, her lyrics was influenced by artists like Billie Holiday. And when you listen to Amy and Billie Holiday, you can say, oh my God, I see it. I can hear it. But I don't think that that's the same thing. An author, you could be like, I am, this unique playwright, but I am inspired by Shakespeare. Sure, that's great. But I don't think that's the same. I really don't think that is the same, because what AI does is it steals without consent, and they directly just take the content from other authors with no credit, no acknowledgement, no financial acknowledgement, to train themselves and to rewrite and to re-spit out prompts for other people. And people would say, well, then don't put out your work. But it's hang on, if you write a book, you write a best-selling book, and then, it's out there and maybe it's on Amazon or whatever. I don't know if it's really fair for AI to be able to take your book and what's in it and everything that you have written, that you've spent hours, years, days writing, for then it to be stolen and remodeled or recreated in another crappy AI book that you see on Facebook Marketplace. I just don't see the similarity, and I think that that's really unfair, and I feel like it's fraudulent, and we don't have the laws yet on this and what that's going to do for IP and all of that. But I have a real issue with it. I don't think it's the same thing as taking inspiration or even maybe copying a little bit from your favorite author. We all kind of do that. I'm sure a lot of artists and a lot of authors, when they first start off, kind of try to write like other people, but it's very different from completely stealing all of the data, all of the content to just create your own. It for me, it is a form of plagiarism, and I think it just makes it feel very pointless. And I personally do not want to read a book that has been written by AI or used a bit of AI. Are we going to have AI authors? Or is it the person who is asking for the prompt? Are they the author? Either way, I don't think that that's an enjoyable experience. Maybe people who don't like to read or who just don't care, who aren't involved in the arts don't care. But I really think you should ask yourself, do you want to read a book written by a computer? I don't think that would be an enjoyable experience. Just like for me personally, and I'm sure other people, I don't really like reading books by someone that I know they haven't written and that it's been ghostwritten. I really, really dislike that. But at least ghostwriters are real people. It's not ChatGPT doing it for you. I think it just takes away the whole point of writing and the hard work that goes into it and creativity. And people could say, yeah, but ChatGPT is creative, but it's creative because of us. The creativity is based off of us. It's not creativity that it's come up with on its own independently. And some people would argue, well, it will eventually. But I think we have to cop to it a bit and say yeah, sure, ChatGPT could become creative eventually, but it is just not the same as someone having an amazing idea and writing it. you cannot tell me that ChatGPT, a ChatGPT author and book is going to be just as creative, just as dynamic and novel as, James Joyce's, Ulysses. Do not tell me that ChatGPT writing that is the same thing as writing, Ulysses and reading Ulysses and all of the themes. ChatGPT cannot come up with that idea. It just can't. It can't come up with those themes, the talent, the writing styles. It ruins it. I don't know. It really ruins it. And I value human intelligence and human creativity a lot as an ADHDer. And yeah, I get the argument that AI is going to become smarter than humans, but I personally do not believe that you can replace that human creativity and the human flair when it comes to books, music, paintings, and art. I don't think you can. And I don't think you should. If you don't want to write a book, don't write one. Like, if you have to go as far to be like, I want to write a book, but I want to use AI to write it, I don't think you should write a book. If you want to be an artist, I don't think you should use AI. I think you should go to art class or watch a YouTube video and learn how to do art. I don't think that you should use AI. I think there are some things that are best left to us to do. And yes, I can hear people already saying, but what if it becomes better? Sure, but the it is a computer, and I don't want to read things and enjoy things and buy things, especially and waste my money on things that are made by AI, specifically when it comes to like art and books and music and all of that. And look, caveat, like, I acknowledge that AI is amazing in movies, for example, for like captions, or for CGI. It's amazing what you can do now. Like swapping people's face, like it is amazing. But I'd be pretty sad, and I think a lot of people would be pretty sad if we just now started using AI to write scripts, or if we didn't have real actors anymore and we had AI actors. I mean, I don't know if you've seen online, but now the AI videos are getting really good. Like, there's still those like funny AI slop videos, like if countries were an animal, and you can tell like it's super bad in AI. But there are some that are just really good. And people are making movies, reels, using AI, and you genuinely cannot tell that they are AI prompts and that these are not real people. And it's very cool. And you can probably do some amazing things and integrate it into real movies. And I'm sure that that's already happened. But I don't know if an AI actor, if you can even call it that, or an AI movie is going to be as good as watching I'm going to say normal movie, acknowledging that a lot of movies use AI and a lot of technology. I don't know how that's going to work. And then it makes me think of that character, that social media personality that was created called Michaela, who we all thought she was real. If you know, you know. I think Shane Dawson did a documentary about her. She's basically like this AI character, but she has her own social media, and she's like verified and has her own following and like does videos, gets brand deals. Like, we consider her real, and maybe one day we'll do that with AI actors. But the immersion and it's immersion break. It's weird. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think I could watch some of my favorite movies in AI form. Nothing is going to replace Mulholland Drive or Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. You cannot recreate that on AI or make something, make movies that have such a significant impact, like, David Lynch movies or Harry Potter with AI. I just don't think you can. I don't think it's going to be enjoyable unless we're not told, and you just don't know. And then if we then get into the issue of AI with ADHD, I have a real problem with the hacking of your ADHD. And even though AI is doing amazing things for ADHDers and, for people who are, disabled, and that's great and we want that, I feel as though a lot of AI programs are being sold by non-experts as a tool that people can use to hack their ADHD. And ADHD is not something to be hacked. Of course, there's little tips and tricks that can work for certain people, but overall, in reality, ADHD is a condition. It's a neurodevelopmental condition that can be managed and treated with medication, psychological assistance, or advice given to you by a professional. You cannot hack your way out of ADHD and out of ADHD symptoms. There is no ChatGPT prompt or calendar reminder integration with AI that can hack your way out of executive functioning issues. And look, it's great for ChatGPT to be able to create a tailored, personalized routine for Lucy, who has ADHD, and make it so amazing. But ChatGPT cannot force me to follow the routine. It cannot force the executive dysfunction or the forgetfulness out of me. It can spit out an amazing routine that, if followed, could change my life. But the power lies within me. It lies within me if I want to follow it. Like in that case, ChatGPT or other Gen AI programs are actually problematic because whilst they might provide something incredibly useful that can prompt and encourage us to do something, can it then maybe get smart enough to where it can control us and have a control on our psyche and on our brain? I don't know. I hope not. But it's something to think about when we get into that. I don't know if ChatGPT will eventually be able to control our free will or have an impact on our free will. At the moment, it doesn't. Unless you're very easily persuaded by how nice ChatGPT is, it won't prompt me to necessarily follow that routine. I decide if I follow that routine. Maybe if ChatGPT comes out with little cute robot figures that can sit on your desk and tell you to do things and maybe force you, I don't know. But I don't know how a prompt is going to do that for me. I have to take it upon myself. But then again, what if one day there's a device that we can put on the side of our temple, on our head, Black Mirror style, and somehow it penetrates through all the neural pathways and those prompts are forced onto us and we become the prompts. It's getting a bit esoteric for me now. It's getting a bit too... But I do think AI is philosophical and technology is philosophical. They all intertwine. And I think now talking about it and having this chat with you guys has made me realize that there's a lot of great things that ChatGPT can do for disabled people, for ADHDers. But I caution you in thinking that ChatGPT is somehow on par with any other treatments that have been suggested to you by your doctor, such as taking, stimulant medication and seeing a psychologist for ADHD symptoms. I just don't think that you should mistake ChatGPT as an assistive tool yet. It's not there yet. It can be great as I don't want to say maybe a backup, but maybe like from time to time. It does have good little tips and tricks, but just be wary of the fact that you cannot hack your ADHD. You can use ChatGPT creatively and to your benefit to help you, but just remember that it's up to you at the end of the day whether or not you follow the routine that it has created. And look, for me, I use it to help me organize my thoughts. That's great. But I also then realized that I also have to get better at, organizing my thoughts when I have to do certain projects or certain things. So just know that there's no hack. Just like there's no cure, there's no hacking of the ADHD mind or of anyone's mind by that logic. Even neurotypicals who want to be more productive or be more this, I don't think ChatGPT and Gen AI is there yet. And I think we have to be careful with how we talk about it and how we use it. But I am very excited to see the advancements it makes in assistive technologies. This is only the beginning. It's going to be pretty revolutionary and amazing, and I'm going to be following that closely. So I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. It's a little different. I really enjoyed researching and talking about it. I love talking about AI and technology. It's awesome. And I really, really want to hear your thoughts about AI, how it's impacted you, whether you're ADHD or not. And if you are ADHD, how do you use it? Or how do you not want to use it? What do you think? Do you want an AI book? Do we want AI authors having AI book signings? Do we want that? How would it work? I want to hear all of your thoughts and your theories, your qualms, your critiques on this crazy, amazing, weird thing that we call AI. And I hope to see you in the next episode. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook and Instagram and Threads at the Lucy Pod. Follow and stream me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, RSS, Amazon Music, all of your favorite streaming platforms. And be good, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!